Hi, I'm Dr. Rajani. Do you want the ultimate glass skin? Do you really have to pay the ultimate price to get it? We're diving into CO2 laser today, something I'm very passionate about. I've done many of them over the years. A lot of people haven't done them recently. The CO2 laser is very unique. It takes great training. It takes a passion and an understanding of lasers. We'll dive into it a little bit today, the wavelength. We're going to show before and afters. How does it apply to you? And can you do one that's on the lower downtime side? Should you do a heavy one and be done with it? How does that all fit in? The CO2 laser was extremely popular through 2007 or 8, and in the United States, when the banking crisis, the housing mortgage crisis, whatever you want to call it, when that happened, it killed it. Before that, we were doing many CO2s. Why? The downtime. Can we revisit this procedure? Is there something we can do now to step it up? Because CO2 laser is, in my opinion, the gold standard laser for skin resurfacing, skin tightening, dermal treatment. And I did a video on RF microneedling in the Morpheus. You can go back and look at that one. RF microneedling became very popular with things like the E-Matrix and Supplative about 8 years ago because people were not willing to have the downtime from the CO2, the traditional CO2. And I'm going to touch on the different ones today. But understand, when after the banking housing crisis came, before that people could take time off, especially if you're in the mortgage industry. You could take a week or 2 or 3 off of downtime, and we learned so much during that time when people could have that downtime, and we really hammered the skin, and we learned a lot as to what happened, how it reacted, what were the pitfalls. After that, people couldn't leave their job. You were lucky to have a job. Employers are like, no, you can't take 3 days off. Before that, it was a week off, no problem. So the RF microneedling took its place because you could treat all skin types. There was minimal downtime, just a couple days of redness. You could put makeup on it. We now have CO2 lasers like DECA's Cool Peel that can do it. But I'm going to take you through the CO2 laser. And if you truly want the best skin out there for yourself, for your standards, you want glass skin with glow, with tightening, brown spots, fine lines, wrinkles, perioral lines, the CO2 laser is the ticket. I'm going to dive into it in 3 seconds. So CO2 laser is 10,600 nanometer wavelength, okay? So that targets water and it vaporizes it. I'm going to show you some video today so you get an idea of that. There are many ones on the market. I'm going to take you through some video footage of the DECA Dot. The tubes are made in Italy and probably the best, some of the best. I hate to be like the best, but they're right up there, if not the best in the world at making the CO2 laser. And when you talk about lasers, understand, I have a video on photofacials, IPLs. That's broad spectrum of light that's filtered down. A laser is one wavelength of white light, so it's very specific. You might know them from tattoo removal. Laser hair removal is often done with broad base light or different wavelengths, but also laser in the 600, 1200 wavelength range. But this is 10,600. That's where you're at to vaporize water, and we're vaporizing the face. And you'll remember, if you're old enough to remember Carol Burnett and all those movies, CO2 lasers were done, ablative lasers were done. I'm going to show you what that is in the video, but if you look at this slide here, so if you look here, you look at this slide here, and if you look on the bottom left, this is our traditional CO2. We ablate the whole dermis. This is the dermis. This is the subdermal layer, okay? So you ablate the whole dermis down here, and the problem with that was the recovery. The results were great. But Rox Anderson, Dieter Manstein over there in the East Coast, who've done a lot of laser work, then invented fractionated procedures, or was part of a group that brought in non-ablative and ablative resurfacing. And what that means, you're going to see it when you see it on a patient, but you see these columns here, the columns that go in through the dermis into the skin and sometimes deeper into the subdermal layers. So you can see that by what it does is by leaving areas of skin intact. So if you look in between the columns, you'll see intact skin and intact on the surface of the skin. Okay, that helps regenerate the area quicker that was ablated, or if you want to say with the heat damage that occurred, and the heat creates that inflammation. When I use the word damage, of course, what are you going to get? Repair. Okay, so in the repair process, no matter what we're talking about, whether we're talking about RF, if we're talking about high frequency ultrasound like Ulthera, like Thermage, and all kinds of different RFs, the repair process is what brings in the cytokines, the histiocytes, and creates that inflammation for collagen and elastin growth and rejuvenation. Now let's watch some video. Okay, if we roll through here, and then I'm going to stop and show you exactly what I mean. Now you'll see the red there. That's the software. Okay, well let's stop here and I'll show you a couple things. But that red light is a guideline. That's the computer. Think of that as the computer of the software of this. This happens to be a DECA CO2, and like I said, it's one of the best ones on the market. They do a great job, but they all put down a similar pattern like this. Here's your fractionated little dots. You see them, and you see they're almost in columns, right? And there's scatter patterns, there's squares, there's circles, there's triangles. You can put down whatever you want, but understanding that the red here that you see around it, that is just a guideline because the laser is invisible. Okay, you can't see it. So if it's invisible to the eye, that means you need something to guide you, and that's that. Now if you look here, look at the pattern. What are we doing? That's vaporizing. Okay, remember I said it targets water? You're vaporizing the skin. So let's keep moving on here and watch the video, and you can see it laying down the pattern. Okay, and then you move across the skin. You can do these fairly rapidly. There is some pain involved, but it's more of the downtime. Now if I'm going to stop here, this is one of the most common areas treated, and you can see the vaporization along the smoker's lines. Now we know to treat them, it's good to do Botox-like products. I do what we call plasma lip. For those who want all natural, it's PRF combinations within plasma sculpt. And then you can see all the little dots here through here. Now I showed you what ablative laser was. That would have ablated the whole thing. And when we did that for people, I didn't actually do those. Those were before my time, even if you can imagine that part. But when we did them, people would get a halo all around in the treated area. So they would get a white area because it did such a good job. It created white skin. So if people were darker skinned, you'd see them, you could pick them out coming down the street because they would have a white halo around. You say, oh, that was CO2 laser. So but this is a common area. I wanted to stop there and really show you what you can see of how the pattern is. So let's move on a little in the video. This is tender, there's no doubt. Topical anesthetic you can use for a lot. We're going to talk about patterns in a minute, but understand here, I'll stop here because so let's look at these dots. If you look at the dots, look at the spacing between them. This is untreated skin, untreated, untreated. Look at the spacing. You can increase all kinds of things that you can, let me erase this so I can have a clean slate, but you can increase the number of dots, you can increase the power, okay, and you can increase duration. And with this laser, and sometimes with others, you can also do what we call stacking. So you can go boom, 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 all on top of the same one to get it at deeper levels. Let's keep moving through here. Okay, so you can see it putting down the pattern of dots. A lot of times you use a smoke evacuator, and each one is going to have its own kind of software benefits that they're going to talk to you about. But the principles that we're talking about here today are the same. So if you go and you look underneath the skin, what are we trying to do? Produce collagen, elastin wake up the skin. Just like we know with hyaluronic acid, we know we produce it and we break it down, but the machinery becomes a little old. Now, let's stop it here in a minute. I'm going to show you a little bit about what they're demonstrating here. So if we stop it, if you look on this side, let's bring this up again, power here, dwell time here. The bottom line is look at the difference in the depth, the width, and what we're doing with ablation and coagulation. Two key components in producing collagen. I don't want to get into the details of it, but just understand the complexities, and partly why I'm showing you this part. Many of you have at-home devices. Many of you are, hey, I bought RF for at home. I bought high-frequency ultrasound, all these at-home devices. Look how complex. There's more to come here. But when you buy something, look at the software, how complex. You get one face. When you buy those devices that are all the ones that are online, you can get on Amazon, you can get on eBay and all those areas, understand what's happening below the skin and the computer technology that goes into it, and all the parameters that we can change to tailor it to light skin type 4, like this, darker skin types, and hyperpigmentation, hypopigmentation, acne, scarring, all of these things can occur. So let's keep moving through the video here a little bit. This is the stacking that I talked about. So you can see, if I'll show you here a little bit so you understand what we're looking at. But let's come in and take care of that. So if we look here, here's the laser, and they're going to stack pulses to increase the depth and the coagulation. This is the outside of the skin, or the dermis. Okay, so above here is your, outside would be your stratum corneum, the surface. You get your epidermis and then your dermis. Okay, and then here you're into the fat layer, and these blue and red, that's your vessels that are creating, of course, your blood supply and keeping the skin alive. And part of a side effect that you can get with a CO2 laser is prolonged redness. It's part of the game. It happens, but you have to be ready to deal with it. But watch this stacking. Let's move through here in the video. Okay, so you'll watch it here. So within the computer and the software, they can stack the pulses in the same area, so you go deeper, you get more of a fractionated column for deeper lines, more collagen building, or you can stay superficial for solar damage, sun damage. And here it's showing you the pattern and the settings. Real important here. I think it's worth stopping, because hang on here for a minute and let's look at one thing, because if you look over here, these are key to your provider. The power, the spacing, which we talked about, and the dwell time. It's complex, because everyone's going to be a little bit different, but understand what's going through your provider's mind when they're doing a procedure, and why you're paying for the procedure and their experience, because one of these could easily cost $2,500 to $5,000. If I'm doing this procedure, I'm doing a full ablation, it'll be $4,000 to $5,000. A light peel, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the cool peel, what they would be much less expensive, much less downtime, and that's all that some people need. Photo damage really was what drove us to do these 10, 15, 20 years ago. Look here, this is showing you the collagen growth. It shows you the line, the wrinkle. I'm going to pause it here for a second and show, this is obviously the outside of the skin with all the fine lines. Here's the vessels. This layer is showing you the fat layer. Okay, remember that microneedling video I showed you, going down as deep as that fat layer to get rid of some fat. We don't see fat loss with these lasers because they pick up water. You really would have to stack it deep. But watch this line. What we're trying to do is build the collagen and elastin back. Ultimately important. When you watch my plasma sculpt procedures, my Sculptra that we're doing, any biostimulators, that's what we're trying to do. So let's move on in the video. But collagen and elastin is the most natural way to look youthful without changing your facial angles or changing who you are. Here they're putting down all kinds of columns of fractionated CO2 vaporizing layer, and you see the clock bottom right. There's day one. Watch the healing. You still get that layer. I'm going to stop it here because this is important. You see here, let's get a blue pen for a minute. Hang tight. You can see it maybe better. Not really. Let's go to, what color could we pick? How about green. Let's see green maybe. Look here. Okay, the surface of the skin is healing, but the coagulation, the area, so the coagulation's healing, the area of heat remains under the skin while the dermis heals, partly because we've now used a fractionated method as opposed to a full ablative method, which would have gotten rid of the whole skin essentially by burning the face off, allowing it to grow back. But that did truly work. Let's keep moving in through the video here. So there's day 2. Day 3, it's healing more, and now we're coming through, and you'll see the wrinkle likely here. They'll demonstrate the wrinkle, help remove. Look underneath. You can't see that with the naked eye, but this is what you're building: collagen, elastin, more hyaluronic acid. And how do I know it works? Because a lot of times you got to wake up the skin first for sculptor and biostimulators to work better, because they need to be woken up. They need a little jolt to produce more collagen. Now, let's stop here and have a little look. Here's a before and after. This is really key, because when someone comes in for a procedure, the question is, are you meeting their expectations? So what we're saying is, if you came in for a jowl, you're not going to get a CO2 laser. You're going to need surgery, threads, fillers. You need to lift that. You could dissolve the fat. This will tighten it a little bit, but let's see what it did do. So if we look over on this before picture, we got brown spots, we got sun damage. What do you have? You do not have glass skin, however you want to talk about it. All the aforementioned things plus pore size. And I'm going to remove all my markings so you can see. If you do the quick Tinder test of what I call it, what do you see? Glow. You see light reflection. And this cheek here much more approximates youth. But what didn't it do? Because this is very important too. Don't get caught up. Okay, it didn't increase lip size. It did not, and you can target the eyes, but it's not like it gave a blepharoplasty or an upper lid lift. I will say, on this before and after at least, the brow elevated a little bit, but that's when you get better skin, elastin, collagen. But it didn't bring a cat eye up, okay? So you have to understand that having expectations after this, that's an amazing result. You can then still do cheek filler, jawline filler back here, temple filler, that will all help lift. And when you do all that, you can certainly then add what? Lip filler, okay? Because it fits with the face. Watch my videos on angles and folds to understand that. Let's keep moving through so I don't take all of your day up here, but let's have a little look as we go through this video. We'll look at one more. Now, this is worthwhile stopping only because we have many videos on smokers lines, but have a look. Here's before. Here's after. Now they're not all gone, okay? If we did full ablative, okay, it would be better. It would be a better result. This is a great result, okay, thumbs up. However, there still see some lines. If patient wanted them all gone or came in and said, hey, look down here, I still have those. Yes, you need a little bit of filler. Yes, you need ancillary services. This does not create volume. Your lips will not get bigger. And could you do another CO2? You could, but look how light the skin is. If you go deeper and more, you're going to get more of what I call a halo around the lip. Okay, so what would you rather do? You could use PRF, okay? Let's draw that properly. PRF, there you go. You can use PRF or plasma lip. You could put PDO threads. You could put a little bit of filler. Okay, you could do plasma glow or PRF microneedling, or you could just say, I'm really stoked with that result. That's where I want to leave it. Nothing wrong with that. Everyone has different expectations. But what do we know when people look good? They want to look great. When they're great, they want to look what? Rock star. Okay, rock star. Because everyone wants more. It's human nature. Let's run through the video here. And we're almost at the end. We're just looking at a couple before and afters. So as we go through, you get an idea what it does and what it does do, and I think that's important. So this is a little more blurry but important. Again, just more glow. I wanted to show you this because you see the little bit of erythema here? Well, it was kind of there before. Rosacea is really common as we get a little older. And this can unmask it because as all the browns go, it clears up. You could have telangiectasias, you can have rosacea. It doesn't do everything, but you can go get that with an IPL after or other services. Or once again, you could be what? Totally stoked because she looks way younger. There's some sun damage down here. Doing CO2 on the neck is a little more precarious, but it can be done. But they obviously, you could go and add some down here. So it's a continuum. So that's CO2 laser, the best skin glow glass skin laser device on the market, period. Everything is compared to CO2 laser and will be for some time, particularly ablative, but fractional is the next best thing. For decreased downtime, things are coming like DECA's Cool Peel, where it's a shot of energy, a quick shot of energy, bam, a scatter effect so that you don't get those lines for downtime, and there's a day or two of downtime, but of course you're not going to get the results as you go to fractional or ablative. But CO2, because everyone wants the perfect skin, you'll see it make a bit of a comeback. Be careful with masks and maskne, where you get acne from the mask. You can get infection, you can get prolonged redness, you can get dyschromia or post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation from these. They also work good on acne scarring and scarring. Have you had it done? Let us know in the comments. What's your formula for glass skin? Thanks for joining me. Stay tuned here. Keep your skin and body beautiful, healthy, and vibrant.